Eastern Standard Time, even though I'm in Mountain Time, but I think Eastern's more familiar to most people. It's LinkedIn Live, the Hour of Empower. I'm so honored and appreciative to have Leslie Flowers with us today. Leslie's been very supportive of the recent LinkedIn Lives and has been commenting and really making a difference, sharing some really quality information that you can take and use right now. Chat is open. We depend on you to direct our conversations and thoughts to more relevancy and what we can do right now for people who want to really dig into what it is that's on their mind, share good things as well as challenges, but this is all for optimism. There's enough of everything else out there besides bringing it in here. So, with that said, chat's open. Feel free. With that, I'm going to introduce Leslie Flowers, and she can share a little bit about herself. And I just want to also mention that goals and achievements are our key thought. Lillian is here. Thank you so much, Lillian. Nice to see you. So, Leslie, you've been watching the show. What do you think about the show, the audience, and maybe share a little bit about yourself and why goals and achievements are the words of the day?
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me here. Hello, everyone. I'm honored myself to be here. I've enjoyed the show. This show reminds me of the 60s in San Francisco and something that we used to do, Don and everybody, called encounter groups. And we would all sit around together and really say what's on our mind, really open, no judgment. In fact, everybody was intentionally vulnerable. And, that's a rare quality in a group. And that's what you appear to have corralled, Dawn, is this feeling of safety and belonging. And it brings me back to the 60s. So I am a 60s girl. And I always was aim, fire, and never got ready. So I never really planned for anything. I went on intuition. It always seemed throughout my life that the universe had my back. And hey, everybody, the universe always had my back, no matter what it is I did. I didn't worry about anything. And in the 60s, I flew troops into Vietnam, taking US troops into Vietnam and back home, which was the most amazing adventure, and kept moving my feet, right? And going on intuition. I spent 45 years in corporate and 25 in personal development. And what I can tell you is that my goal is to have a mindset of wealth, health, and happiness every day, not as a goal someday, somewhere, but to literally learn, like in this group, information that was missing for me that I'm now ready for so that I can be happy, healthy, and wealthy, so that I can enjoy my life now. Now I'm retired half, right? I spent my entire life trying to get to this point, getting to this point and having a good time, right? 2 kids, 4 grandkids. Half the time I work with my clients, the other half I'm enjoying with my grandchildren. I will tell you, if I can do this, this is something you can look forward to, everybody. Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's I've learned new things just now that I didn't know, and I think that's why having really honest and real time conversations with real people, you really can feel the authenticity. You can actually be part of the story if you think about it. And you know what? Everybody's got a story, and every story is important, especially to that person because it's a story of their life
Mhm.
and what they've done, who they are, because everybody's equal in the now.
Hmm.
So that's one thing we all have in common. With that said, I want to share some of the audience with the audience. And Lillian's here. I mean, I can keep using the same adjectives and even superlatives, but consistency in anything you do makes a huge difference. Showing up every day for something, coming to a show like this, reaching out every day, ask yourself, how much action do you have inside of yourself and how much are you using, right? How many calls could you schedule in an hour? How many comments could you make? How many anything versus thinking about what didn't happen, what you're afraid will happen, and it's really about coming here and like defrosting, getting unfrozen. But with that, I get caught up. Let me continue. Aaron, new name, new person. Thanks so much. Every day we're picking up new players and who are getting involved, and more importantly, are getting value. Right? If you're doing the right thing, you're going to be getting the right things back, especially with the right people. Kim, she's going to be on Thursday with Kelly. First time. Happy Monday, everyone. Thanks for being here, Donald and Leslie. Honored. Uh, a friend within a friendly group. Roxanne's here. Roxanne's coming on this week. I believe it's Wednesday, but don't one of these days. Paul's here. Hello, Don and Leslie. Happy Mindset Monday. I'm so grateful to be here. Well, Paul's just phenomenal. I can't talk enough about him. Use this opportunity to look at people's profiles, to get to know them better. And if you really want to get to know them better, have a call. Why guess when you can know? And you'll be surprised. Lillian, Howard, hi there. I hope you're doing well. Dean is here with his magic potato. Thank you so much, Dean. Here every day. I'd miss the potato if you weren't here with it. Ice is here. Hello, all. She's has become a regular and has really commented very well. Shared a lot of great knowledge. Lillian, welcoming Ice. Paul, wow, Leslie, you are badass. Well, Paul could know. Hello, Donald, sir, and Leslie, ma'am. The great thing, what Leslie just mentioned too, is the respect, the honor people give each other who come here. We were just talking prior to the show about old school in a way of talking with people, understanding the proper protocols and best practices that most people are just not aware of. It's not they mean to be, a bad fit in a lot of places. Good morning. Here we have a longer one from Paul. If anyone needs inspiration, I watched the greatest documentary yesterday, 14 Peaks. Nothing is impossible. The reason why I created my show, Impossible Equals I'm Possible. Well, you are your show. Where you decide to project it, to what audience, to how many screens, that's up to you. And I think relevancy really is the key to authenticity. Good morning. It's been a bit, but glad to be back for a feel-good session with the group. Yeah, Brandy, it has been a while, but what's nice about everyone is everybody comes back in time, and it just shows there's something here to come back to. Keep going. These never stop. Having read the book yet, Kim is thanks for the mention. I always love what Leslie has shared. I have enjoyed your feedback and comments.
Thank you.
And that makes it worth doing when people show and share that, because we would never know. You never want to be the best kept secret on LinkedIn. I can't wait to see you on the show. So awesome. So with that, we caught up. What's your thoughts now towards what the audience is sharing and where that can lead us to?
Well, I want to tell you a little story about how life can be magical. I actually believe that we're not alone, and someone's always had my back, and we never get an idea that we can't do. So, sort of floating through life, not worrying much. I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a fire sign. So I'm a philosopher and a traveler. And that's why I was a stewardess. And when The Secret came out, you remember some people may not have heard of it, but there was a book by Rhonda Byrne that came out in 2006-ish called The Secret, and I was fascinated by it. Right now, I'm already a mother with 2 children, right, in college, etc. This is many, many years later, but in the 60s in San Francisco, I was all involved in that kind of stuff, right? But then life goes on for decades. So I started a meetup group. And through a series of events, and the meetup group was all about the movie The Secret and the law of attraction, right? It was a big runaway. So during about 6 months, every month we met, I got this errant email. And in 2007, if you got an email from someone you didn't know, you're not supposed to open it. I mean, you're not supposed to open it now, but back then it was like, don't. And inside there was a link. Do not touch the link, but something told me I love this work, and I've been asking, in a way, in my own prayers, gee, how could I do this? I was a secretary, but I really loved this subject. It was so interesting to me. I followed the link and landed on Bob Proctor's site. Now, if you don't know who Bob Proctor is, I'll fill you in and let you know that he was the world's thought leader on Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, the #2 best-selling personal development book ever, and 100 million copies sold to date. So through a series of conversations with the salesperson, they said, well, come down here. We'll teach you Think and Grow Rich. This is in West Palm Beach. This is going to be great. You'll do a mastermind. You'll be wonderful at this. And of course, then the question came, right? How much, right? And this was late 2007. And she said, $16,000. 2007. I had $500 in an Edward Jones account, Dawn. And I said, I'll be there. And at that point, I was really like a toddler, which I've learned a lot from kids. I saw my world through the prism of doing this work, right? There was nothing that was going to stop me. It was like going for the chocolate chip cookie at supper time. Don't go for that, right? And I'll tell you, within 6 months, I had a windfall of $20,000. I had no clue where it would come from, but I was so in love with the idea, so focused and so sure. So to the point that Paul made, you can do anything. Anything is possible based on your mindset, and that you have the information to go about doing it. What do you think about that, Don?
I think that's excellent advice. Great insight. I was also involved in the 60s. I also was a big fan of The Secret. I remember buying copies and sending it or giving it to people, and really kind of opened my eyes to personal development, even though I had gotten into it more in the 90s. And was part of a group that actually involved Brian Tracy and Jim Rowan, Agmondino, all Roger Dawson, you name it. And to your point, what I always found is the people who are proactive, who are open to change and redirection, which could be thoughts, relationships, actions, and want to join a group. There's a saying, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? So you want to be with people you can learn from, you can grow with, and you can share with. And I think, coming back to this group, people are open to sharing because they're realizing it's the fastest way to getting, right? Because you're raising your hand. You're not only raising your hand, you're offering something with that hand that you're raising, and you're going to create an obligation, whether it's ever fulfilled, back to you. And the obligation back to you could be just gratitude. It could be just guilt. It could be a lot of things. Roxanne Reed, oh, you mean Colin O'Brady, The Impossible First and 12-Hour Walk. Kim, thanks for the documentary share. Sharing is caring. If we can all learn together, multiplied by how many times we meet, by how many people that meet up. 40 people's experience a day shared the next day is an incredible treasure that you can pick and choose whatever you want from it and apply it. It's real. It's proven, most of this. I appreciate the support. Thank you. Andrea's here, who will be here tomorrow. Andrea's a wonderful spirit. I love what I'm hearing. And Andrea's all about love. So, Lillian says hi. Paul, thank you for your support. Paul, well, checked off my goal today. I learned Leslie is badass. I got to share my documentary that changed my life. Now I'm abundance. You know, what you bring is what people remember. Leslie, ma'am, is always extraordinary. Thank you for that third validation. Hi, everyone. Much love to you. Never enough love. Many reasons why I love this show. My favorite has to be Don's stories of meeting these incredible authors and speakers I learned from today. You know, if you go where these people are, you'll meet them. You know, there's places where, you know, I've been in certain places like the Bellagio and spent a lot of time there. And you just sit still and the world will come to you in time if you're open to it and you sit still long enough. I'm happy to join the show. Thank you so much for coming. You know, and like Ambimbola brought like so many people from Nigeria to the show. I mean, our message is universal, evergreen, and it's something that people are getting immediate benefit from participating. Thank you, Lillian. Ice says, Downswer, phenomenal idea for event. Always radiates positive words and precious practices to elevate our presence. You know, it's so much nicer when someone else talks about you than when you talk about yourself, because they're more credible and believable and they don't have to. Well, a lot of them have passed on. Well, and that's the key. And you know, to Leslie's point of her experience, there's something you do learn over time that continues to support things you're going to learn in the future. So having a foundation, having a basis. And what I found is when you bring complementary and positively contrasting elements, you get a full spectrum of the ability to create something that's important. And, you know, when anybody asks me, why do you do this? Because it's important and it could get more important. Right? Now it lives on beyond us because Leslie's grandchildren will be able to see this 40 years from now.
They don't pay much attention to what I do. This kind of work.
As they get older, they may. And anyways, it's there. I've met all my mentors in person. I commit to speed because I don't have eternity. If you got a high gear, use it. There's no sense staying in the slow lane. You know, what's your thoughts, Leslie?
Well, I wanted to tell you what it was that had me get so interested in achievement, which of course is in Think and Grow Rich. And I've got a, you know, that's really my specialty. And inside that book, that's the blueprint for being a millionaire. And you might ask yourself, well, if there are 100 million copies sold, why aren't there 100 million millionaires? But here's the thing. What I figured out was what was missing. So I could set and achieve goals, but it wasn't consistent. So in terms of building my business, I didn't want haphazard results, right? I wanted, how do I do consistent results one after the other so that my, you know, my business grows and so that I have this daily mindset of wealth, health, and happiness. And I realized after asking a lot of questions, and probably you guys that are listening, you've also asked these questions. Where's the checklist? Where's the rules? The information has been around for 5,000 years. But like Napoleon Hill did with the business principles of success, he spent 20 years interviewing our country's most successful people to figure out what everybody else wasn't doing that they were doing. So the thing that really got me going was, well, I'm going to create the checklist because I can't find it anywhere. And what I discovered is that we know a lot about setting goals. It's really what we don't know yet that pulls it all together so that we can be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I'll tell you a story.
Please.
Is when it was like, I think it was 95, and I was going through some severe business challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy on the way up, but when things aren't working too well, you're not always prepared for the way down. And I had built a business from scratch. I mean, I borrowed $10,000 on a Buick, and that's how I launched my first business. And before you knew it, there was no business, no money, no nothing. And I decided, well, at that point, I would just give it away at cost. And if I couldn't sell it at cost, then I'm never going to make any money here. And what was so cool, I only had enough inventory for 3 days. So it was weekends only, open to the public, wholesale prices, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I sold out and took 4 days to get more stuff in. And before you knew it, I opened a second store 3 months later and just kept growing. I grew at 300% a year for 5 years. And I was an
Wow.
8,500 company 3 years in a row. But on the way down, when things didn't work out, because when you're always building for growth, you're kind of outside of yourself when it doesn't show up. So anyway, to make a long story short, I turned everything around. But one of the things I used is I was in a bookstore here in Denver, and saw Think and Grow Rich, the cassette, right? It was, where you had a cassette deck. It was, and
Yeah.
I never knew about the guy, but the title intrigued me, and I was in a position where I needed to think and grow rich. So here's the result of the story. I ended up playing that cassette every day back and forth to work for a year. Where I could mouth it after a while. It wasn't that much. I mean, 2 cassettes you can use up pretty quick. So the point is, but every time I got to work, I was out of the mindset that I left the house with. And every time I got home from work, I was out of the mindset that I took from work. And eventually changing your mind. And that's what I guess the essence of it, think and grow rich. And rich can be anything to anybody. It doesn't have to be money. It could be whatever you want it to be. I think is essential. And, what having Leslie on the show kind of demonstrates. And, I'm not into like things like commenting on ageism or something, because it almost sounds like you're railing against it. But with only 2.2% of the people on LinkedIn who are over 55, you've got to believe that's a huge opportunity. It's not that there's too many young people, but there's a wealth of professional experience, life wisdom that could be mentors, that could be on shows like this, sharing a lot of their information and being open to rounding out people who will never have the opportunity to know what old school was, to know what shaking somebody's hand was or making an appointment. I mean, so anyways, we'll get right back to Leslie after we follow up. I remember when I had my article featured in 8 global news magazines. Good for you. It taught me how little I care about vanity metrics. It's why I shifted my currency to impact. Changing a life means more to me than any award. Well, the key is not to be transactional in anything you do. If you're not building relationships, if you're not cultivating them, you're just planting more seeds that will never grow into very much. Anne's here, and somebody that I would advocate you reaching out and getting to know. She's a great supporter of the show.
Can we go back? Somebody asked a question and we've gotten way past that. I think it was
Okay.
Dean. He
Okay.
asked about an aha moment.
Let me see. We are getting a lot. Dean.
He asked about what was my aha moment.
Okay, right here.
So I'm not sure, with the delay, it's hard to know. Thank you, Kim. I see what you're saying. It's hard to know exactly what he meant. You know, I've had a life of epiphanies. We saw this one, yeah. I had a life of epiphanies and aha moments. Once 2013 rolled around, it was all about the wage gap. And I had already been having Think and Grow Rich masterminds, men and women. They're setting and achieving goals based on following the book, just like you said. And it is there. Some of it is there. And I realized in 2013, women knew nothing about these principles of success. Nothing. So at that point is when I decided we needed a checklist because women and men too, they, in order to build confidence, I've discovered that confidence grows organically when you set and achieve goals consistently. So that even made me more hell-bent on what is the checklist. And and I want to share about that checklist. But Donald, I also want to ask the audience, what do they know about goals? Now, I thought everybody knew about SMART goals, but yet when I spoke with you, you didn't. So what I want to know is what do you know in the audience already about goals that works for you that you can count on? And then we could demystify or add some things, right? Maybe new perspectives on a way to look at that, because the checklist has worked for 500 quarterly goals. So if you start just like with word problems or algebra, as long as you have a checklist, you really have your best chance. But there was no checklist. So for these women that I was teaching every week, it was vital that they become confident enough to ask for what they deserve and get paid. And they're only in business 40 years. We're coming into 21st century business, and our behavior clashes with business behavior. So people aren't really listening to women. So that's in 2013, after 5 years, I turned my efforts to primarily women and building this checklist. So I'm kind of curious about let's see, I'd like to know how you use the lack of resources to motivate you to create one and share your knowledge. Well, I'm heart centered. And I have set and achieved goals and done some extraordinary things, which I won't go into, right? If you get to know me, you'll know that I've done some phenomenal things. The thing about the 16,000, it happened again a couple of years ago. Whatever it is I want, I become the match vibrationally to that thing, because I'm pretty sure that what we believe about our own ability is going to match what we show up with, what our bank account is, and everything. So, how do you believe in yourself? Well, I started seeing that these people, these women, every time they set and achieved a goal, not only did they do it, they didn't know how to do it, but they did a good job. So, that built confidence. So, it was vital. It was the missing piece,
Mhm.
was the checklist, right? And so that's why it's so important for you to know that we actually know about half of the 12 things through trial and error. But boy, when you get the other six, life changes. It's just like knowing how to solve equations, knowing how to, it helps. They do a 20, I just had a 25-point check run on my air conditioning unit, right? And there's a list of everything. It's like a punch list, right? But we didn't have this for goals. No one taught us. So I'd like to know if anybody taught you, what you know about it, if you've used SMART goals. What are your questions? Because I think I could probably give you a few things to chew on that might shift your perspective. That's really all I want, is for you to see another way to think about it and consider that, well, maybe this is a piece that I want. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Well,
let's see. Yes.
I think that, seeing is believing, hearing in real time what people have to say
Mm,
really opens one's mind, not so much to change, but to continue to layer and complement on to what you have. Too many people are focused on either or instead of either and. And
Exactly.
if you don't have to change or give something up, then everything that you add could be gravy, and you always have what you had. So you can't really lose, and you'll learn something no matter what you do. What I found, and having a significant business that had significant overhead, your goals were meeting your requirements and obligations every month. It wasn't like sitting down and deciding, what am I going to do today or what am I going to read today? It was like creating initiatives that would justify what you're doing. So I think when you have time pressure, it creates action pressure, right? You know, a
Mhm.
goal without a deadline is just a wish that probably never happened.
Right. So that's one of the things. If
Hmm.
you don't have a very specific deadline, set one. And what I've discovered is that if you don't know when, pick a date that lights you up. You one of the rules is that um and it seems counterproductive, so I'm really interested in what people say about this, is that if it's a goal that you already know how to do, it's not a good goal. You would have already. So one of the rules is that you don't know how to achieve it. And that was one of the hardest things, right? That it's not a good goal if I already know how. I mean, I know a couple of steps, but honestly, just like in this group, what happens here, I took the step to be here, but I don't know the answer to everybody's question. Therefore, I'm listening to learn, right? So I learn, I'm questioning everything I know. So, yes, visualization. One of the rules is to picture it in the screen on the screen of your mind as though you already have it. Why? So you're really standing in the future in the present. How? Because you want to be excited about it, right? I think that if we look at a toddler, right, that's going for the chocolate chip cookie, or even me back in you, Don, when the Sears and Roebuck's catalogs came out mid-year. What did we do? We poured over every page, and that year it was roller skates. Now, look, we used everything that was in Think and Grow Rich because we harangued our parents. We saw the roller skates everywhere. Every time we saw it in the store, we pointed it out to our parents, right? All of a sudden, all these people had these roller skates, and daggone it, that is what I wanted. And then we seemed surprised when we opened the package at Christmas and there were the roller skates. That is one of the ahas, is if you watch what children do, they have no conscious mind yet. So they just go for what they want. They want it because they want it, they want it, and they will go through fire to get it. And so therein lies the way you want to feel about the goal. And the goal always has an impact and a why for other people. So, what difference will it make in other people's lives and in your life? So, do we have any more questions? I mean, I could go on forever, but I don't want to get off topic.
Well, basically, everybody seems to agree with you.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody has your back. You know, and you know, I encourage everybody, just like Leslie, to share what it is, because this is a pretty broad topic and has many different definitions and based on context and perspective.
Mhm, mhm.
And everything is individualized. You know, people come to the marketplace for different reasons and for different things. And it's the same way here. Hello, happy new week, Lillian. We've got, okay, Ambimbola.
Right, Andrea, that was, oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'm reading the comment.
Ambimbola, hello, everyone. Happy new week. Sorry I'm late. Had to be in a meeting about a course I am taking. Well, you know, a little bit is all you need sometimes to get a little bit more. And I think that's the key, is stair stepping yourself to greater levels of learning, applying your learning. And I think another important point I think that Leslie's making is, one formula is plan, do, review, right? And so many people are busy doing, they don't have a chance to really review what they're doing, what it's affecting, getting the feedback necessary. Then people don't revise their plan. It's like set and forget, and then you just do more. But if you're going in the wrong direction, or at least not the right direction, doing more is just speeding up what isn't going to happen.
And to your point, the reason you only want a couple of steps is for this very reason. Because as you move toward your goal, and in Think and Grow Rich, in organized planning, the takeaway is the goal doesn't change, but the plan will.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you already know all the steps, then you're going to be attached to those steps. And here's what happens. If you only know 2 and you're in action toward it, you're open for people and opportunities that seem to show up magically with the answers you're looking for. And so one of my aha moments was realizing that what I want is already moving toward me at the same rate I'm moving toward it.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't pay attention if you already know how, and then you'll feel bad because you weren't able to make it work.
Well, to that point, I think what's so important to the audience is really, it's easier to say what you know and assume people know what you're talking about when you say it. But to your point, everybody is capable of doing what it takes.
Absolutely.
Right? It's understanding what it is. If you gave somebody a menu, a recipe, like they do to bake a cake, and said, if you do these 6 things in the right order, the right way, you're going to come out with this cake and you're going to have a good time eating it, right? If someone would take their life, and I always kind of compare it to like a closet organizer, and go through it and take inventory, which is the review part, decide what fits you now and what doesn't anymore, what looks good on you or what you like at the time. And then you put that back, and now you open the space up for the things that don't work for you. And now you're providing for someone else, hopefully, maybe you contributed to somewhere, is now you got a fresh start with what works for you right now, and
yeah. And one thing I would be careful is not to tweak too much. Allow people to show up in your space that, and to me, there are no coincidences. So not knowing how you're going to reach the goal sets you up to be present to new information. And that was this whole thing about goal achievement, is we know about half of the stuff, we don't know the other. And once we learn those things, just like with any way of beginning something, we have our best chance at achieving it. And one of the things is some people had talked about SMART goals, and you didn't know anything about it. I just want to say one thing about SMART goals for those who know about it. This was really smart tasks. A middle management company came up with specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, right? And so I see people trying very hard, because that's all we had were SMART goals, right? So they tried very hard to use those 5 elements. What I know now is that achievable and realistic, when you have a big goal, they aren't achievable. They're not realistic, but your tasks to reach it are. So there's a way to use it. However, if that's all we had, there's still missing information. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really a hidden ingredient is communication, right? I mean, the more you communicate, the less you're assuming or presuming. The more you communicate, the more you allow someone to kind of guide you also, because you don't want to be independent in a quality, trusted relationship, or you're not going to have it long, right? If you just do things on your own without asking for permission or advice or insight, then you're defeating the whole purpose of why come together with another person to share experiences, because this show kind of shows everybody's got an important story, but once you share it once, that's your story, right? You can share it again and again, but you've already shared it. Now it's like, where do you take your story? How do you learn from somebody else's story to improve your story? Someone was I was talking to this lady, and she was mentioning that she had a friend who was like 87 and had just a fabulous closet, and called her up with three other girlfriends and says, listen, I just decided it's time to move this stuff out. If you want, why don't we all get together and we'll share what we have, and what we don't use we'll give to some women's shelter. And I think that's the same thing, is how much do you have that you're not using that someone else could benefit from, and what do they have that they can trade with you? And now everybody's better for what was already there. You didn't have to create something. And when you build from inside, there's a wealth of value. When you split a finite, visible thing, there's competition for the bigger piece, right? When you already are the bigger piece. So Paul says, I believe there's three pillars to being a high achiever: clarity, proximity, and execution. They're all important, but I see so many people capable of so much and doing so little with it, and then complaining a lot about it after after the day's over. Is like, that's why when I do something, I'm all in or all out. I don't want to be the reason it didn't work because I skipped something. And that's why I decided to do this every day. I can't do it more than every day. If they
let's see if we can't answer this question for Kim. Go back to that one you just did.
Oh, okay.
You had Kim up there. What was it? She said, any tips for taking a large vision? That's exactly what there is to do. That is my work. So here's the thing. Once you know how to set a goal and you've got the checklist, it makes sense that you're going to arrange your calendar with space a couple of times a week for the tasks that come up. But don't set them all. Only the week ahead, because you want to make room for people and opportunities that show up. So here's a question. Let me share this good thing for everybody. So this is one of my favorite things that I would share with you that will always help you stay focused with your goal. One of the biggest things that my clients share with me is how confused they are and how they're not focused. And no wonder, with all the input that we have, right? We really do have a smorgasbord of input. And so focus really disappears. So here's the thing. Once you've set your goal and make it extremely clear, and you can see yourself already having it, anything that comes up, right? Any new opportunity, any new kind of idea, new collaboration, ask this question. If I do this now, will it take me directly toward my goal or not? If it will not, do not do it now. Doesn't mean you're not going to do it. So you will only take on things that take you directly to, by the way, I know this is going to get everybody on the checklist, one goal. And there's a reason, because with one goal over 90 days, which is a sweet spot for people, they can stay disciplined. You build a new belief in yourself. It's enough through autosuggestion, Donald, right? This is the mastermind we're talking about here. So if you ask that question, that will help you stay focused on your goal and not feel like you have to do everything. Give yourself permission to set one goal that you don't know how to achieve, that would make an impact on other people, that has a big why for you too, also for other people. So ask the question and then be strong enough to say, you know what, I can't do this with you right now. However, are you available at the beginning of next month? Because this is a super idea and I want to talk to you about it. So you can still do it, right? But you don't have to do it right now. And I think we're compelled a lot of times, well, let's just do everything right now. You have to get really clear on one. And one other thing you said, Donald, that I didn't want to forget, we are co-creators, and the reason we want to feel really good is because we're built to have a high vibration. That's our nature. And most of us have a negative low vibration, which puts your body in disease. So what we want to do is have that daily mindset of wealth, health, and happiness. And this goes a long way to raising your vibration. Why? Because there are 7 universal laws that you may not know about them or how they work. But just because we don't know about them yet doesn't mean they're not working. The language of the universe is how you're feeling. If you feel crappy most of the time, your results are crappy. If you feel really good and you're learning and you love people and you're kind and grateful, there's a reason why those things feel good. The cellular vibration is a total body thing. It's not brain. Mind is an activity. So when you feel really great, there's a spring in your step. All the cells feel really good about this. And what you want is coming back at you, being the same as you are. So if you're happy and you're wonderful moving through life, J.D. Gershburn and I had a conversation about this, people will show up that are just like that. They will have your answers. So feel good. You're not alone. You may not understand why God or the universe or energy or spirit or Jesus or Buddha, whatever you want to say, it is one omnipresent source, right? That always has your back, gives you how you're feeling, and never runs out. And
Oh,
will is that. I love that. Your turn, Donald.
okay. Appreciate it. Um,
I
it's
told you does not let me teach. So
no, and they always say facts tell, stories sell, and everybody wants to hear your story, and everything's conditional and relative to semantics, definitions. So I think if one just takes the essence and trusts the intention of what's being said,
mm,
and I know there was a question that someone mentioned as to, well, first I want to uh, welcome Dr. Joanne White. She's going to be here Saturday for her first time talking.
oh,
She,
Andrea says yes. Andrea Stadhalter. Yes, the new belief and not the limiting belief. That is hugely profound. And this is an expert. I can tell you already that Andrea, and I've heard her speak some. Here's the deal: we have a whole bunch of limiting beliefs, and you know about them. As
Mhm.
soon as you get a new idea, the first thing that hits your conscious mind, I can't do it. I'm not the one. I've never done it before. I've failed. I'm not smart enough. We all have those. But they're the first ones that show up when you get an idea that you can't do. Every time you set a goal, one goal, and you achieve it, you actually create a new belief. You can do it in 90 days. Not only that, but you've also created a new neural pathway, which is another whole conversation. So, to Andrea's point, yes. And so we have all these negative beliefs that we got through auto suggestion, right out of Think and Grow Rich, right? Right. And that's how faith is built. Now we have the ability with the checklist that you can actually create a new belief. And proof, it's faith that I did it and I didn't know how to do it. And I had all these second guessing. And Donald encouraged me to start my own show. And I was scared to Pete and I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway. And guess what? I did a good job and I loved it. And so that is how you create a belief in yourself and faith in yourself. So it's critical that when you set and achieve a goal, let's put it this way, it makes it faster.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a checklist like anything else, the guy with the air conditioning here, he didn't have to have a checklist, but he would have had to write everything down. But he went bing, 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 bing. And his results are excellent. Same thing with this. You just need to find somebody who spent the years that I did figuring out what is the checklist, what is the process. And this is no promotion. This is just to tell you that I'm lit up, that I know how to do these things. And so anybody who wants to know how, I just tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I've given you some things today. I hope that you got at least one insight today that had you think a little differently about setting goals. What do you think, Donald? Did you get one today?
Oh, sure. I got more than one. I got
Oh,
quite a few, and a lot of seeds have been planted, so more will probably show up in time. And that's, I think, what's important is time. But I think the foundation to everything we're talking about is learning, because too many people judge without enough information. I always say, buy a few vowels before you solve the puzzle, and and that's what I would do if I was at the Wheel of
you're
Fortune.
dating yourself.
Well, I just believe that in getting all you can, to make a decision. So what I do before I even judge is go to YouTube, and in 7 or 8 videos about any topic, and most of these videos are 3 or 4 minutes. So if you just gave yourself 30 minutes to be conversational, right, about what it is that you're interested in, and learn. And you can go to Google and get definitions and more information. What's 1 hour of discovery to now say, I'm so much more aware and smarter about what I'm about to talk about? And it's the same thing with people. Too many people judge people like, they say, don't judge a book by its cover until you have a call, until you actually have a Zoom where you can actually be with people and see people. And give yourself a chance not to be wrong too early. When you're passing up opportunities, there's something called return on investment, and then there's COI, which is cost of inaction. So what do you miss that you don't do that you could have done, or you could have done faster? And the idea is not everybody wins. People time out, people wear out, people give up. So if you've got strong information, strong relationships, that'll help you towards your goals. So you seem fascinated by all this interaction, Leslie. What's your thought?
I'm trying to read this, but I can't respond. I'd have to
Okay.
go back afterwards and respond. Yes, I am fascinated.
Well, all this is comments that'll be posted on the post, so you can always go back and see them.
Good.
Leslie is giving me goosebumps, which I could explain. What you should do is, Leslie, is come back on a show with Andrea.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, Andrea's here every Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times it works great. I was going to mention before, Dr. Joanne will
Thank
be
you,
here
Joanne.
Saturday. Let me just share the calendar. So tomorrow we have Andrea. Wednesday we have Roxanne. Thursday we have Kelly and Kim together with me. Friday is Christy. Saturday is Joanne. Sunday, we've got a new gentleman, Samuel Borelli, great guy, international sustainable recycler. You're going to get a chance to meet. I've been working with him for a couple of years. Gretchen's back on Monday, and Andrea just keeps going. So we're almost at 53 minutes. Like to cover all these other people really quickly.
Yes, yes.
What a great share. Feel good is wonderful. Wow, Leslie, thank you. So many applicable points you shared. I hope everybody was taking notes, but you can also go to my profile. This will be posted. You could watch the whole thing. It'll be on YouTube also. So Dr. Joe says, Joanne, thank you. You bet. So many wonderful people out there I'm meeting that have an opportunity now to share their story. It's incredible. It's just about having the courage to share your story. Ice says, yeah, my favorite, setting a new belief. Great. We'd love to hear how it worked out. So if you apply these things and you get great results, we'd love to hear you share it either directly back to us or in the group.
And let me say
Everyone is
something about what Paul just said. He
okay.
just said, everyone is an expert on their story. Here's something fun for you. You are an expert. If you're telling yourself that you're not smart enough or people know more than you are an expert to the person who doesn't know what you already know. And if you are afraid or not willing to step out and share what you know, consider that those people may only be able to hear it from you. It's kind of like the freshman or the senior is an expert to the freshman. Remember how it was when you went to school and, oh, to be a senior? You are an expert. You learn things. There are people out there that are scrapping and there's missing information for them that you have. Right. That's kind of how I feel. I've got some missing information. Dawn has missing information. I didn't know that you were listening to Think and Grow Rich. That's exactly what I did in 2008, going to work. It was 30 minutes each way. I had it on CD, unabridged. And for 6 months, I'm like you, I could recite it. And this is how, you know, people are always reading a lot of books and they're gathering a lot of information. There comes a time in your life, and I'm pretty old, right? So it happened later in life where you stop gathering information and you figure out where to go deep and study and really be irreplaceable and fill a need for which you've spent your whole life studying for. That's kind of what happened to me. That's what's happening to Dawn. The same thing can happen to you. So, everybody, please connect. I'll see you on the boards, I know. And um, I'd love to do a combined show, and I appreciate your support. You know, it's a fabulous thing that Dawn has put together here. I haven't felt this comfortable since I was 17
Oh,
in
wow.
San Francisco in an encounter group where I could be me and not worry about being judged by anyone, where everybody's arms are open. Learning is the miracle grow for human beings. So thank you, Dawn, for being such a terrific facilitator. And it takes one to know one.
Well, I was just going to say that. And so it does take one to know one. And, I hope everybody appreciates how honest and thoughtful our advice is. And it's meant for good and to benefit others. And again, this is a way of kind of like, I was just relating to Rodney Dangerfield. And I know that's another name that most people don't remember. But I have the benefits of all the comics from the 50s and the 60s. And, he never got any respect. And what was interesting, and actually his last name was Cohen too, is he was a furniture sales. He had his own furniture store until he was like in his 40s. And it didn't work out. And he had to do some comedy to make some money. And before you knew it, he became a superstar, right? But what he did is he went back to New York and he opened a comedy club called Dangerfields. And he had people like Jerry Seinfeld on and all those people initially who launched their career. And a lot of times I look at this show as like an improv show or a comedy show where someone can come, share their story, relate to people. And it's really a runway. There's so many, and the reason why it is because people are here for just a short period of time are getting the kind of exposure they always wanted but couldn't break through to. They were going through the door with a million other people shouting and screaming versus going off to an island in the sun with people who support you and encourage you. And before you know it, with what Leslie's saying about manifesting things yourself by believing, by working at them, by reaching out. I mean, there's, like Leslie says, a lot of this stuff would be great if we invented it, but we haven't. Everybody comes into the world with nothing. The worst you can do is break even, right? And the key is what are you going to do while you're here to make life more enjoyable for yourself and the people around you? And I think that's the answer to most of our problems is peer to peer, helping the person next to you. Don't waiting for an institution to give you access. It's not going to happen. You're going to wait too long, and there's no reason to be in the dark when people are in the light and can share that with you. So with that said, we're at top of the hour. The comments have been fast and furious. Tune in tomorrow to see Andrea here. She's an inspiration for all. She's in the Netherlands. Kim says, thanks for joining and sharing. Paul was instrumental in getting so much on the board today. I would say it's all about implementation. You can learn everything if you don't use it, and it's useless. And here's the other thing: if you can't do it, maybe we can. And I think there's no shame in reaching out and say, I'm a little bit short. I could use your knowledge or your wisdom to get me over. And that's what really is important about sharing. Wow, I can feel you. And thank you for sharing your valuable experience views. Have a great Monday. Learning is the miracle growth for human beings. Leslie Flowers. Leslie, I think you just dropped the mic. I don't know. Leslie, you have brought so much life and insights. Thank you for sharing. It's great to have a wonderful audience that's already pre-vetted for goodness. I agree with Leslie. I feel abundantly blessed that Am and Bull invited me to the group. Beautiful souls and insights. Being the one who's the gatekeeper and let someone into a place they never knew existed and can benefit them will keep you at top of mind awareness for that person forever. Yes, if it wasn't for Am and Bull, I wouldn't have been here. Well, I can't thank everybody for taking the time to be here, because I know everybody's busy. But if we can help you and make this the fastest, most valuable hour of your LinkedIn day, then we've accomplished our goals. So with that said, last words, Leslie, and then we'll sign off and let everybody get to doing what we were sharing with them to do.
I am the mirror of your greatness, and you are the mirror of mine. When we look for the greatness in others, it grows our own level of greatness. And you can't be great unless you develop it by finding it in others. Connect with me, Don. You're a doll. And hope to see everybody again.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Joanne and Kim. Kim's been great with sharing all of this. And with that said, rest up. In 23 hours. We'll be back with Andrea, and we'll continue where we left off. Thank you so much. Bye for now.